The sky was barely awake, hues of gray bleeding into the weak morning light, as Jordan Avery stood on the train platform gripping her folder tight to her chest. Her resume, freshly printed on cream linen paper, was neatly tucked inside. She had read it over at least 20 times the night before, just to make sure the font size was consistent and there were no typos. First impressions mattered. Especially when you were a young, black woman fresh out of a state university, with no connections, no family name to drop, and no fancy internships bought by Legacy. This was it. Dunlop International. One of the top private firms in the city. High-rise, high-profile, high-pressure. It wasn't just any company. It was the company. The kind that didn't just hand out interviews. You earned them through blood, sweat, and relentless emailing. Jordan had done all three. Her fingers trembled, not from the chill in the air but from the storm inside her chest. She glanced at her watch. 8:03 a.m. She had planned everything down to the minute. The interview was at 9 o'clock. She had exactly enough time to make the ride, hop off 2 blocks early to avoid downtown traffic, and walk into the marble lobby with just the right amount of early that said, prepared, but not desperate. The train screeched to a halt. She stepped in, found a seat near the doors, and took one last glance at her reflection in the window. Her braids were neatly twisted into a bun. Her blazer, thrifted but tailored, hugged her shoulders perfectly. And her shoes, though scuffed on the soles, shined just enough to pass. She looked like someone who belonged. Now she just had to act like it. The train rattled on. 20 minutes later, she emerged into the chaos of downtown. Horns blared. Suits rushed past with coffee cups in one hand and Bluetooth headsets in the other. Jordan wove between them like a shadow, keeping her breathing slow, her pace steady. Then she saw it, Dunlop Tower. All glass and steel, like it had been carved out of ambition itself. She could see the lobby from across the street. Just a few more minutes and she'd be inside. That's when she noticed the commotion. At the corner of the street, near a tilted trash can, an elderly man was crouched awkwardly, clearly struggling. A brown paper grocery bag had ripped open beside him, its contents scattered: milk, bread, a smashed carton of eggs. Pedestrians sidestepped him like spilled coffee. No one stopped. Jordan's eyes darted to her watch. 8:44 a.m. She looked back at the man. He was trying to scoop up an orange, but it rolled into the gutter. His cane had fallen beside him. His breathing was shallow, his hand trembling as he tried to grab at the bag. She took one step forward, then paused. Someone else will help him. She wanted to believe it. I can't afford to be late. But no one else moved. She swore under her breath and darted toward him. Sir? She called, lowering her voice as she reached him. Are you okay? He looked up, startled. His glasses sat crooked on his nose, fogged from sweat and humidity. He had a wiry beard, trimmed but patchy, and deep lines in his forehead that seemed etched by time and hardship. My bag, it just split, he mumbled. Can't feel my legs too well today. It's all right, I've got you, she said, kneeling beside him. She scooped the oranges first, then the bread, ignoring the cracked eggs and the milk slowly leaking onto the concrete. Let's get you sitting somewhere, she added. She offered her arm, bracing as he leaned on her. You don't have to. I do, she interrupted softly. She led him to a bench nearby and helped him sit. His breathing was labored, but after a few moments, it steadied. Do you need an ambulance? She asked. He shook his head. Just need a second. These lungs ain't what they used to be. She gave him a bottle of water from her purse. Here. He blinked, surprised. You carry water? I'm always over-prepared, she replied, trying to smile. He took a few sips. You're kind. Not many stop. Especially dressed like you. Heading somewhere important? Her stomach twisted. She looked at her watch again. 8:53 a.m. I had an interview, she said quietly. Down the street. His face shifted. At Dunlop Tower? Her brows raised slightly. Yeah. Big company. Big job? The biggest I've had a shot at. He looked at her, and for a long moment didn't speak. I'm sorry, he murmured. She forced a smile. It's all right. You needed help. She stood, brushing off her knees. You sure you'll be okay? He nodded. You're a good one, Miss Avery. Jordan Avery. He smiled. Jordan. I'll remember that. She nodded once tightly. Take care, sir. Then she turned and walked briskly away, her heels clicking sharper now. Each step was heavy. She felt the weight of the missed moment pressing against her chest like concrete. She arrived at the front desk of Dunlop Tower at 9:04 a.m. The receptionist didn't look up. Name? Jordan Avery. I had a 9 o'clock interview scheduled with the analyst team. You're late. Yes, I know. I'm sorry. But they don't wait. Jordan's voice cracked. Please, can you just check if they're still? HR policy is strict. If you miss your slot, you're disqualified. The receptionist finally looked up, her expression blank. You can reapply in 6 months. Jordan didn't move for a moment. The lobby was buzzing around her, heels, suits, the distant chime of an elevator. But all she could hear was her own heartbeat, roaring in her ears. All right, she whispered. She turned and walked back outside, the city now colder, sharper, crueler. And for the first time in months, Jordan didn't know what came next. The coffee shop smelled of burnt espresso and rain-dampened coats. Jordan sat in the corner booth, staring at her untouched latte. The foam had long since collapsed into a beige puddle, and her hands sat motionless in her lap. Every now and then, the barista glanced at her, offering a silent look of sympathy that only made her feel smaller. She had walked straight there after leaving Dunlop Tower, her resume folder clutched tight like it still had meaning. Now it rested on the table in front of her, damp at the corners, a faint coffee ring bleeding into the edge. The bolded line at the top read Jordan Avery, financial analyst candidate. It looked laughable now. As if that title belonged to someone else. Her phone buzzed with a notification, another job rejection. She didn't open it. She already knew what it would say. Words like regret and qualified candidates, and unfortunately, were stitched into her inbox like a mantra. The worst part wasn't missing the interview. It was that she'd done the right thing. She knew it. Her mom had always raised her to help when someone needed it. Character comes before career, she used to say. But Jordan wasn't sure anymore. Because character didn't pay rent. Kindness didn't close job offers. A sharp laugh from a nearby table cut through her thoughts. 2 women in tailored coats were scrolling on their phones, talking about a new boutique opening in the financial district. One of them casually dropped the phrase, "My assistant booked it wrong." And Jordan flinched. That word, assistant, used to sound promising, like a foot in the door. Now it sounded like a consolation prize she couldn't even get offered. Her phone buzzed again. A different number this time. Unknown. She hesitated, then answered, voice low. Hello? Miss Jordan Avery? A crisp voice asked. Yes, speaking. This is Lisa from Dunlop International. We're calling to follow up regarding your missed interview earlier this week. Jordan sat up straighter. Yes, I'm so sorry I missed it, I tried to. No explanation necessary, the woman said smoothly. Mr. Dunlop would like to meet with you personally this Friday at 10 a.m. if you're available. Jordan blinked. Her mind reeled. Mr. Dunlop? That's correct. You'll be meeting with him in his private office on the top floor. Just check in with the front desk, and they'll escort you up. Her voice cracked slightly. Yes. I'll be there. The call ended just as abruptly as it started. She stared at her phone like it had grown wings. Mr. Arthur Dunlop didn't meet people. He wasn't on LinkedIn, didn't give interviews, didn't even attend board meetings in person, according to office gossip. And he certainly didn't reschedule missed interviews, especially not for unknowns with no corporate pedigree. But there it was. A second chance. The rest of the week was a blur. She updated her research, reprinted her resume, pressed her blazer twice, and even Googled what to do if you meet the CEO by accident, because something about the whole situation didn't make sense. Still, she didn't dare question it. All she knew was she had to be ready. Friday came too fast. The morning was overcast but dry. Jordan walked to the tower this time, no train, no distractions. Her heels were polished, her confidence rehearsed in the mirror 3 times before leaving the apartment. When she stepped into the Dunlop lobby, the same receptionist from Monday sat behind the desk. Jordan approached cautiously. "Hi. Jordan Avery. I have a 10 a.m. appointment with Mr. Dunlop." The receptionist looked up, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. She blinked, typed something into her screen, then stood. "One moment." Moments later, a sharply dressed woman in navy approached. "Miss Avery? Right this way, please." Jordan followed her through the glass security gates, into a private elevator. There were no buttons inside. Only a biometric scanner, and a gold-plated plaque that read, "Executive Floor, Authorized Personnel Only." The woman placed her thumb on the scanner, and the elevator began to rise. Jordan's heart pounded with each floor ticked upward. She tried to steady her breathing, smoothing her palms against her skirt. What could this possibly be? Why would the CEO want to meet her? The elevator chimed. The doors opened into a wide room flooded with natural light. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the skyline. The decor was minimalist: walnut wood, black leather, brushed steel. A single desk sat near the center, and behind it stood the old man. Jordan froze. He wasn't wearing the rumpled coat from the street. Today, he wore a perfectly cut suit, silver cufflinks catching the sunlight. His cane leaned against the desk, unused. He smiled. "Miss Avery," he said, voice calm. "We meet again." She couldn't move. You were in the street." "Yes." He nodded. "You helped me." Her mind scrambled. "But why? I don't understand." He motioned to the chair across from him. "Sit. Let's talk." She obeyed slowly, still dazed. He watched her for a moment. "I make it a habit, every few months, to disappear. No drivers. No security. I become an old man with a cane and see how the world treats me. And usually, the world walks past." Jordan said nothing. "But you," he continued, "you didn't. You were running late. You had everything to lose. And you still stopped." She cleared her throat, finally finding her voice. "It felt like the right thing to do." "It was," he said. "Most people talk about values on their resumes. You lived yours." Silence hung between them. The skyline stretched behind him like a painting. "I have nothing to prove on paper," she whispered. "I'm not from a top school. No insider connections. I just wanted a shot. And now you have one." He slid a folder across the desk. "It's an offer. Analyst role. Full salary. Benefits. Start date is up to you." Jordan stared at the folder, her fingers trembling as she touched it. I thought I'd failed. I walked out of here thinking I'd ruined my chance." He leaned back in his chair, smiling. "Turns out that's when you earned it." Her voice broke. "Thank you." He stood slowly, walked around the desk, and offered his hand. "Welcome to Dunlop, Miss Avery. We need more people like you." She shook it, her grip firm despite the tears welling in her eyes. In the elevator ride back down, alone this time, she let herself cry. Quiet, controlled tears that held the weight of every rejection, every doubt, every door that had slammed shut, until this one, unexpectedly, had opened. And this time, it didn't just open. It welcomed her in. Jordan walked out of the Dunlop Tower with the offer letter tucked neatly in her purse, but her thoughts were anything but organized. Her feet moved on instinct, crossing intersections and dodging slow walkers, but her mind swirled. Every word from the meeting echoed like it had been stamped into her memory. "You earned it. We need more people like you." A shot like this wasn't just rare, it was unheard of for someone like her. No Ivy League pedigree. No uncle on the board. Just her resume, her instincts, and a moment of compassion. Still, the disbelief clung to her like humidity. Had she really gone from being turned away by a receptionist to shaking hands with the man whose name topped Forbes lists? It didn't feel real. She'd seen articles about Arthur Dunlop, his reclusive nature, his legendary deals, the rumors that he made decisions no one questioned. But none of those stories had mentioned a man in a wrinkled coat picking up oranges at the corner of Market and Fifth. That night she sat on the floor of her studio apartment, the offer letter open in front of her, its clean white paper nearly glowing under the soft desk lamp. She traced the bolded salary figure with the edge of her thumb. It was more than her mother had ever made in a year. And it came with relocation support, a private mentor, and an executive development path. It wasn't just a job. It was a future. But the questions began to creep in. Why her? Why now? Was this just an eccentric billionaire's social experiment? Was it charity dressed up as opportunity? The kind of chance given not because she was ready, but because he felt moved? She hated that she even had to ask herself those things. But she'd lived her whole life in a world where people like her were often tested twice, judged quicker, and forgiven slower. She'd been called exceptionally well-spoken, as if it was rare. She'd been told her natural hair looked unprofessional during her last interview. She had learned to smile while absorbing disrespect just to get through the door. And now, she was being invited to sit at the table. She picked up her phone and called the only person who would truly get it. Her mother answered on the second ring. "Baby girl?" Jordan's voice wobbled. "I got the job." The silence on the other end was brief, then broke with a gasp. "You got the job? The one you told me about? Dunlop? I met him, Mama. The CEO. He gave me the offer directly." Her mother nearly dropped the phone. "What? How? Jordan, are you— Wait, slow down. He interviewed you himself? It wasn't even an interview," Jordan said softly. "Remember the old man I told you I helped? That was him." The silence this time was longer. Then her mother exhaled slowly. "God don't play." Jordan smiled through the tears. "No, he doesn't." They talked for over an hour. Her mother asked all the right questions, gave all the right warnings, and reminded her, as always, to never forget who she was. The next morning, Jordan reported to HR to complete her onboarding. The office was different now, not colder, but crisper. She noticed the way others moved, how people looked up from screens as she passed. Not out of rudeness, but curiosity. Word must have gotten around. She wasn't just a new hire. She was the girl Mr. Dunlop invited upstairs. In the break room, a woman from finance smiled at her. "You're Jordan, right?" She nodded. "Heard about you. Rumor is you saved the boss's life." Jordan chuckled awkwardly. "Just picked up some groceries and offered a bottle of water." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Girl, all I'm saying is, half this building would have stepped over him." She left the conversation quickly after that, unwilling to be treated like a legend. She wanted to earn respect through work, not whispers. Her first day with the analyst team was smoother than expected. The team lead, Anthony, a sharply dressed 30-something with a precise watch and confident stride, gave her a tour of the workspace. He explained expectations without condescension, but Jordan noticed how he watched her just a little too closely. Like he couldn't quite figure out how she'd landed here. Later, during the lunch and learn session, she was the only one who asked questions. Intelligent ones. Anthony's eyebrows had lifted slightly. Afterward, he approached her by the coffee machine. "You're not what I expected," he said. Jordan tilted her head. "What did you expect?" He held up a hand. "No offense. But when someone skips the normal interview channels and goes straight to the CEO, it usually means politics, nepotism, or PR." Her smile was polite but thin. "I stopped to help a man on the street. I didn't know who he was. That's all." Anthony studied her for a moment, then gave a single nod. All right. Then let's see what you can do. The work wasn't easy. Every spreadsheet felt like a test. Every meeting, a performance. But Jordan was ready. She stayed late, double-checked formulas, and built models that didn't just work, they impressed. Slowly, the stares softened. People stopped referring to her as the CO girl, and started asking her to review their numbers. A week passed. Then 2. And then, she was summoned again. This time, it was a formal calendar invite, * lunch with Arthur Dunlop. Friday, 12:30 p.m. executive dining, *. She stared at the notification for several seconds. Everyone said Arthur Dunlop didn't do follow-ups. He made offers, then vanished. But here he was again. She arrived early. The executive dining floor looked like a 5-star hotel restaurant, mahogany tables, panoramic views of the city, and a soft jazz quartet playing in the background. Arthur sat at the table already, wearing a different suit but the same calm smile. Miss Avery, he greeted. How's your first few weeks? Challenging, she replied honestly. But I like it. He gestured for her to sit. I've heard good things. You've made quite the impression. She paused. Sir? I need to ask something. Why me? Really? He didn't blink. Because the world is full of people who say the right thing in interviews. But I wanted to know what someone would do when no one was watching. She exhaled slowly. You didn't help me to get something. You helped because that's who you are. That's the kind of person I want in this company. And then, he leaned in. I'm retiring soon, Jordan. I've built this company to last. But I want leaders who don't just chase numbers. I want people with integrity. This lunch is not just a check-in. It's the beginning of something bigger. She froze. He smiled again. But don't rush it. Just keep doing what you're doing. Doors will open. As she left that lunch, Jordan realized the turning point wasn't when she shook Arthur Dunlop's hand. It was when she kneeled down in the street to help someone everyone else ignored. That was the test. And she had passed it without even knowing it was being given. And now, the world had finally begun to see her not as a mistake, but as the future. The months passed faster than she expected, like pages flipping in a book she hadn't realized she was writing. Jordan arrived early and left late, always the last to shut down her workstation, her fingers flying across keyboards while most of the office lights dimmed around her. She didn't do it to impress anyone. She did it because she belonged now, and that belief, quiet, steady, had settled inside her like roots taking hold. This wasn't luck. This wasn't pity. She had earned her place. Her name began to circulate across departments. Not with flash, but with respect. People mentioned her in meetings. Jordan had a better model. Asked Jordan to sanity check the projections. Jordan caught the error before it hit the client deck. She wasn't the girl who helped the CEO anymore. She was the analyst with sharp instincts, steady delivery, and a reputation for never missing a detail. And still, she stayed humble. She didn't gossip. Didn't flex. Didn't push for visibility. Her presence did the talking. But whispers reached her ears all the same. They say he's grooming her for something. I heard she has direct access to Dunlop. Who else gets that? She came from nowhere. How long until she replaces someone? Jordan ignored it. Mostly. Until one Thursday morning, when Anthony, the same team lead who once doubted her, asked her to step into a meeting room with 2 other senior managers. The mood was tight. No smiles. One of them, Martin, spoke first. Jordan, we've received word that you're being considered for the new leadership track. She nodded cautiously. Yes. Mr. Dunlop mentioned a fast-track program. Anthony leaned forward. We're not saying you're not qualified. But that role typically goes to employees with 5 years minimum. You've been here 8 months. Jordan said nothing. Martin continued. Some people feel it's disruptive. Sets a precedent. Her voice was calm. A precedent that rewards performance? Anthony sighed. Look. You're good, Jordan. No one's denying that. But a move like this soon, it'll cause friction. She met their eyes one by one. Is that your concern? Or theirs? They didn't answer. She left the room with her jaw tight and her posture straighter than ever. The message was clear. Not everyone wanted her to rise. But she hadn't come this far to ask permission. That weekend, she received a call from Arthur Dunlop's assistant. He wanted a meeting. Not in the office. At his private estate. She hesitated only a moment before accepting. The Dunlop estate sat on a hill outside the city, surrounded by forest and silence. The house was modern and warm, filled with art that whispered of history and glass walls that made the trees look like part of the decor. Arthur greeted her at the door himself, casual in a sweater and slacks. He offered her coffee, motioned for her to sit by the fireplace. "You've done well," he said, eyes on the flames. "Better than I expected." She nodded. "Thank you. But success comes with resistance. I imagine you've felt it." She exhaled. "Some of it, yes." He sipped his coffee. "People see what they fear. And sometimes that's someone younger, smarter, and hungrier. Someone they didn't expect. Someone who didn't come from where they did." She looked at him. "So what do I do?" "You stay excellent," he said simply. "Let their discomfort be their burden. Not yours." She absorbed that. Then he set his mug down. "Jordan, I didn't bring you here just to talk shop. I brought you here because I'm announcing my retirement next quarter. And I'm naming a successor." She froze. "I have no children. No heirs. My board expects a safe bet, a partner or legacy hire. But I'm not interested in safe bets. I'm interested in vision." Her voice shook. "You want me to lead?" "Not yet," he said. "But I want you ready. I want you in the room. At the table. I want you shadowing operations, understanding the heart of this company. And when the time comes, I want no one, to question that you earned it." The fire cracked beside them. She stared into it, chest rising with emotion, pressure, pride. "Why me?" she asked again, not out of doubt this time, but all. He smiled faintly. "Because the first time I saw you, you knelt beside a stranger in the rain with no expectation of reward. That's who you are. That's who I want steering the ship." She didn't sleep much that night. Her mind burned with possibilities, fears, responsibilities. But under it all was a quiet flame. One that said, "I can do this." The next week, things began to change. She was included in executive calls. Sat in on quarterly strategy reviews. Her badge gave her access to floors most employees never saw. Some whispered louder now. Some tried harder to outpace her. But most began to follow her lead. And one morning, she found herself in the elevator with the same receptionist who once dismissed her at the front desk. The woman gave her a tight smile. "You've come a long way." Jordan returned the smile. "Still got a long way to go." When the doors opened, she stepped out with calm authority. Not with arrogance. Not with apology. But with purpose. Because she was no longer the girl running through the rain, praying to make it to an interview. She was the woman who stopped for someone the world had ignored, and changed her life because of it. And the world, whether it liked it or not, was finally taking notice. One act of kindness. One missed interview. And a destiny that could no longer be denied.